Accessibility is an important topic, especially for those of us who are running websites in the European Union, where we are required to come up with accessible websites in June this year, so that's 2025. Now, I think everyone would agree that accessibility is important, but we also have to say that it is an additional task, and given the limited resources we are all struggling with, we cannot always kind of prioritize accessibility. But it doesn't have to be that way. If we are writing tests with Playwright, it's very easy to integrate accessibility into it. It's kind of a low-hanging fruit. And this is exactly what I want to show in this video. So welcome, my name is Rainer Hanekamp. I'm a Google developer expert for Angular, and I'm also a member of Angular Architects, so we provide workshops and trainings for topics around Angular, including Playwright. In Playwright, we usually don't use like HTML tags or ID attributes or CSS classes, because we don't really want that our tests are failing because somebody has renamed a div to a footer, or I have renamed the CSS class green to verified. So that's why we very often are going to use the data test ID, which means that the application developers, they have to place this HTML attribute to certain DOM elements, which is called data-test ID, and we use that for the selection. So let me quickly show you what I mean. We have here our test, where we say we are going to expect something from Playwright test and describe. And the way how we usually do it is that we say, well, before any test actually starts, we have here our before each with the page. We are going to open it not like this, but like this. Go to empty. And then we say accessibility selectors. So that's what we want to use here. And in the beginning, I'm not going to use accessibility selectors, but just that we're all on the same page, I'm going to use data test ID. Yeah. So I can already run this test. Let's see if it shows something. Yeah. So we are here. And then I would say by starting with that we want to click here on this button holidays. How do I do that? Well, I just say okay, maybe not okay. The test didn't work. No, now it's working, sorry for that. But I want to click now on the holidays button. So the way how we do it is that we have here an await, and I say page get by test ID. Yeah. So now I need to know where are my test IDs, these attributes, where are they located and what values do they have. And for the holidays button, that's quite clear. That one has holidays, button holidays. Again, this is something that application developers need to do for you. You're lucky if you can also, if you're the application developer and the tester in one person. Yeah, and then we just click on it like this. Okay, so if I now rerun the test, we will hopefully see a change because now the holidays have been opened. Now, there exists this role attribute where the browser is assigning the role values automatically especially for interactive elements. So for button, text boxes, radio buttons, combo boxes, whatever. And the holidays, as we see here, is also an interactive element because I'm clicking on it. So I don't have to assign a certain value, in most cases, to my elements, as I would actually do if I use the data test ID approach. What changes now is that I have to know the role. So in this case, I can now say I want to select something via the role. And now I need to know the role of the holidays button. Now I'm always saying the holidays button, but in reality, that's not a button. It just looks like a button. It's a link. And there is a role which is just called link. And if I type that one in, you see here, Playwright is already highlighting me the links on my website. It's also a nice advantage if you're using VS Code together with Playwright. You have this very good integration. And for me, I now need to filter. I now need to filter down all the links which I have, and I need to say, I only want to click on that one which contains the name holidays. And usually, the get by role method always has two parameters, the role itself, but then also something to filter it. And the most used one is always the name. So I say here, it should be the name holidays. You see already the problem. So in Playwright, the majority of the actions that we run, they usually want to have only one DOM element, not multiple ones. And that's why Playwright in this case is highlighting me, or is using here the orange color, which should tell me, signal me, look, you have too many elements, you need just one. And name, the name matcher is always a substring match. And that's why I need to say here, no, it's not substring, it needs to be an exact match. Now the color turns to blue and we have just one element selected. And now I can run the test again. Let me quickly refresh that the button is in its right position. Right, there we are. Yep, and now we see holidays are selected. So far so good. It was not necessary that we need to do there something manually in the application. Which is going to change now. Because what I want to do is that I want to select the holiday with the name Bali, and I want to click on this request brochure button, which is that one here. So if I hover with my mouse over it, you see also the title here of this icon says request brochure, and you already see it's a link. The question now is, how can we now find out which role it has? What do we have to do there? The Chrome browsers, they have the elements. And if you would now go here, and if you would then select here a certain element, then there is something in the DevTools which is hidden in the beginning, right here, and that is called accessibility. Now if I click on accessibility, depending on the element that I've just selected, the browser is telling me the roles that have been assigned, also the roles of the parent DOM elements with their names. And you see here, if I click here on grid, that we are here in the div. Let me quickly look it up. Here we have it, div. It says role grid and the area label holidays. And this is something that I had to do manually. So I had to manually set the role attribute and the area label because the browser wouldn't have done it automatically for me. But we also see here that the grid cells do have the name of their assigned holidays. So it's not very easy for me to come up with the right selectors. I know the roles, I know the names. Let's quickly jump into Bali. What do we find there? Well, there are buttons, there are links like request brochure. Wonderful. We know now everything we need to know. There's also something else. You can always enable here the full page accessibility tree. If you click on that button, then you also need to reload the DevTools. And then you have here this man icon. And if you click on that one, then the elements here changes from HTML tags to the accessibility tree view. And what you see here is that the first element is always telling you the role. The second is always telling you the name. And then you have further attributes, which obviously you can also use in Playwright for the selection. In our case, it's not necessary because we just go with the role and the text itself. But this is very helpful, I would say. Good. So let's go back to our test. So we know now what we need to do. So I say here again, get by role. I say I want to select the grid. I could be now more specific by saying it has to be the grid with the name holidays. And then I want to dive deeper. I want to select a grid cell. And I want to not just select any grid cell. Again, I want to be very specific. I only want to select the one with the name barley. And it's of course get by role. And then I want to click on this brochure icon. So it's another get by role. We have seen before that this is a link. So I say here link. There are two of them, again orange color. And then I say name brochure. In this case it's just a substring match. For me that's enough. And then I just click on it. And we see in a way it's very readable. So it says, get by role, click on the grid, which name holidays, then go down, look for a grid cell with the name barley. That one should have a link with the name brochure in it. And on that you want to click, or you should click. Let's try it out. We are now on the address or the request info component. And there I have to type in a physical address, street number, and the name of the street, and then at least that's the use case of this test. They are sending me a brochure with that particular holiday in mind. I'm using here Angular Material, and Angular Material is generally very good when it comes to supporting accessibility, which means the input fields, they are already set automatically by the browser, yes, but they have already also the right names and so forth. So if I see here that one contains address, I know that the name will already also be address. So I can say here await page and get by role. And then I say here it's a text box. It's not an input, it's a text box. That's the name of the row. And then I just say, well, it has the name of address. Wouldn't have been necessary here. There is just one. And then I type in a value. Let's use a German term, Hauptstraße 1, which means Main Street number 1. And then I want to click on the send button. And this time I hope that it is a real button, not a link anymore. But you know already how to find that out. So we say here get by role, button. There are two buttons available. I say here the name is send, and then please click on that one. Rerun the test. And it is working. Good. Are we done yet? No, we need to come up with the final assertion. And we see here it shows the text brochure sent. And this is what we can then also use. So the way how it works in this case, in this particular case, that I have again added some manual data. The brochure sent is, if we look at it, it's a P tag. It also has the test ID, yes, but it also has manually assigned the role status. So that means if someone with a screen reader is navigating through our page and this P shows up, then the screen reader is aware that now the status has changed or that some kind of notification shows up. And then you have different ways on telling if the user navigation should be interrupted and so on and so forth. But for me, the important aspect here is that I've given this text a certain role, which I can then again use to verify, to do the final assertion. Good. How do I do that? Well, I say now I have my expect. I am looking for another row, and this time it's status. And let's just say there is just one. There is really just one. And we use then here to contain text. And I say the text should be brochure sent. That's what I want to have at the end. Now if I rerun this test, it will hopefully work. Succeed. And now it's up to me to do the final verification, because what you should always do when you're writing tests, you should also verify Not that it's just formatted correctly, but you should also always verify that the test is failing for the right reasons, that the test is really doing what it is supposed to do. And that means in my case, I'm adding here a typo. I'm going then to rerun the test again. And now this time it should hopefully fail for the right reasons. Yeah. We see it takes already some time, which is usually a signal that this is not going to end well. All right. And now I let the test rerun again and we see it working. So this is accessibility selectors. Sometimes people say, yeah, well, good. We also understand the benefit because in this case, the code is much more readable. We see exactly what we are clicking on. Also here, this association with the text is also very easy to understand for anybody, even if they cannot code. That's a good thing, but the problem is we have multiple languages, or maybe the text changes very often. What should we do then? There are different arguments. You could say, yes, we have multiple languages which we are supporting, but it doesn't change anything in the way how the website works, how our application works. So if I click on holidays, it doesn't matter if it's in German, English, Spanish, or whatever, the application always reacts the same way. So we could kind of decide for one particular language that we want to support, that we want to write our tests in, and that should be it. Another argument is that they say, well, I want to include that the texts are also tested. So I really want to know that the button is called holidays and not something else. And this is part of the test. And I want to have that, and I want that the test is failing if the text is not there. For all the others, let's say, no, this doesn't apply to us. The texts are changing very often, or we want to run the tests in different languages. It's going to be a compromise. So what you would have to do then is that you have to create yourself a translation function. So there should be somewhere an endpoint in your backend which can return you with the translation messages. And usually those kind of translations have a message key and a message value. So the translation key, and a translation value. In Playwright, by the way, it's very easy to do this. You can have here a request, the request object, which allows you to start communicating to fetch data from the backend inside of your test in order to get all this data. And then you probably don't want to do this inside of a test, but you want to write yourself a test fixture or some kind of function, which is called translate. And that function is then used here instead of the static value for the string. So you would then say here, yeah, well, translate. And the problem now is that usually the translation keys have the same style as a data test ID. So it could be that it ends up with something like this. And then you could say, well, I don't see the benefit here anymore because it's not the same value which we have in our data test IDs. Yes, but again, there is some investment in this translation function, that's right. But you're still selecting via accessibility selectors. This is a benefit over the selection via the data test ID. So the next option that we have is that we can also test for keyboard navigation. In our example, we are typing something into an input field, and maybe I want to do this not by using Playwright's fill method, but I want to really kind of press the keys. And that's not all of it. I also want to use then the tabs to navigate to select the send button. And then again, I don't want to click on it. I want to press the enter key. And then I hope that the result is the same. And this is something we can also very easily do with Playwright. The way how it works, and by the way, keyboard testing, keyboard navigation is not just about accessibility. It's also quite useful for power users, which want to be a little bit faster. Yeah, so let's remove here our translation, which we had from before. So here it's holidays, holidays. And this one is commented out, so we don't want to do this. Let's leave the text box selector as it is and replace it with something else. Good. We run the test. We see that the navigation works. We end up in our request more information page. And now I say I want to focus on that one. Now, first I need to focus, then I can type something in, obviously. So I say here focus. And then I want to press the H button, a space, number 1, and then 2 times the tab followed by the enter. The way how I do it is that I say, okay, I want to click, there is this keyboard object in page, and I want to press the button H. Then I want to do a space, then we have a 1, then we have the tab 2 times, and then we have the enter. Yeah. So I would expect, let me quickly show you, that I focus on this, I click on H, I click on space, I click on 1, I click on tab 1 time, a 2nd time, and then I click on enter. Which means then brochure send should show up. And for that we're using the page the keyboard press. You can also create an array if you want, where you're putting the values in, and then you have a for loop. Again, in the for loop you will require the await in order to shorten the code as you wish. Let's run the test and see if it's actually working. Nope. It ends here, and I think tab does not exist. Let's rerun it again. Well, we see brochure send shows up, and in the end, the assertion that we had is still the same. So we have here expect. We are requesting here the status brochure send, which should be the final result. We rerun the test again, and we see it is working. I could now again come up with a typo where I'm checking if the test is not really working, but I hope you trust the test is now a correct one. The main obstacle was the tabulator, and now we are done with that. So again, keyboard navigation, very easy way on how to test this with Playwright. So far we have just used accessibility actions selectors, but we didn't really write a test only for testing accessibility in that sense. And this is now going to change. There exists a plugin which you have to install. It's called the X plugin, which also exists for other testing frameworks. And that one allows us to navigate to a certain page and to say, I want you to run a report on the page and test if it kind of fulfills the accessibility requirements. The plugin is already installed. It's called the X Core Playwright. This is what you have to do. And then you just write a normal test. So I say here X, this is my X test. Again, I have my page, which I require. And the X plugin comes with something with a class, which is called the X builder. Yeah, so I have to import it. So I say here, I want to have the X builder, and that one is coming from the X Core Playwright. What does it want from us? Well, we see the page would be nice. So we provide here the page instance as well. And then we have the instance of the X, not of the builder, but of the X builder class. What we want is that we want to have now a report telling us if everything is all right. We want to have an analysis. And that's why the main method in this case would be analyze. So I say, yes, please analyze the landing page for me. I want to have a report from it, and we are getting it asynchronously. So that's why I need to say here, I'm going to await it. Once I have the report, I can look up its properties. Yeah? And there is one which is called violation that catches our eyes. And violations is now an array And in the best case, we say there are no violations. So I can say we have here an assertion where we say hopefully to have length 0. Very easy. Let's try it out. Your execution is easy, but maybe fixing it is not going to be that easy. We see already the test results. It's not going to work. So we are not fulfilling all the necessities. And in this case, I would say it might be better if we use the Playwright UI to see what's really the problem. I mean, I could also decrease here the font size, but I'm not going to do it. So I say here, I want to use the trace viewer, run it like this. And now we have a better overview. And now Playwright is telling us there were just 2 violations. Given there was also not so much content on our website, but the main landmark, obviously an issue with that one. And then you know what you have to fix. You can then also customize your X plugin. You could then also, for example, say, I don't want to run all the different kind of rules, guidelines, standards. I want to limit it down. And the way how you can do this in Playwright is that you say you only want to use certain, they call it tags. And in my case, that would be the WC AH2A, you see, I can't even pronounce it without looking at it, and then also the double A. And we say this should be enough. The rules which are located in there, this is what we want to test. And then let's rerun the test. And we see this time, because we have limited down the rules, the test is successful. There are also other options, obviously, but I just want to give you the idea or that you know that this possibility does exist. Other options could be that you use, for example, the include, and there you can then kind of narrow it down or you select down to a certain DOM element. In our case, at holidays, I could say I only want to select the main screen and I only want to verify if that one is accessible and I want to skip the rest. Good. After using a report and using selectors for accessibility, there is then also a possibility to use accessibility matches. So we could select certain DOM elements and then we could say we want that this DOM element now has a certain role, has a certain name, has a certain description, but not by using the selector, but by using a real assertion. So I would call this matches, accessibility matches. It's again the page which we had before. And then I could say, well, with my page, I'm now going to select something via the test ID. So in some way, I end up with having a locator for a certain DOM element. Let's say button holidays. I mean, for obvious reasons, I would go directly with the roles and skip that one, but I just want to show you the matches here. And then I can say, well, in this case, I want that this one has a role, and that's link. So I need to put here an expect around the locator, and then I can say to have role, and I say it should have the role link. Let's do it the wrong way. Let's just say it looks like a button, so it has to be a button. Let's use that role. And we know by now that this is hopefully going to fail. So that one is failing. So I can already go and I can say, well, it's not the role. It is actually, it's not button, it's the role of link. And now the test is working. Other options is that I can also say to have accessible name. In this case, it would be holidays. We know already that this will also work because we have used it before as a selection criterion. And the third one would be to have accessibility description. Accessible description, you've already seen it before. In my case, there is none, so I just leave it out. But for you, it is just important that you know that this matcher does also exist. This is kind of using assertions when it comes to single elements. But there might also be this requirement that we say, well, we want to select a complete region and we want to verify that they have a certain accessibility tree view. Let's just say, if we look here at the side menu, then I would say for me it is important that the links here are accessible. But maybe not all of them, only the holidays and the customers. I mean, yeah, we can also say newsletter is also important to reach out to our customers, but then let's just say we can also then skip the bookings. So holidays, customers, newsletter are the ones that should be there, and it's important to me that they are available in a certain accessibility tree view. And I want to test all three of them in one go. And in order to achieve this, there is, you can now write a serialization of the accessibility tree view manually, or you can just use the Playwright code generator, which does it for you, which is what I'm going to do now. Because usually this writing the things on their own, it's not a nice way to do it. It also takes a lot of time. And why do it if we have automatic tools which can help us with it? So I say here that's the area snapshot. That's also the way how Playwright, the terminology that Playwright is going to use. And then I say here I have my page. And then I go into my extension and I say I want to record here at the cursor. Good. So I then click again. I say reload holiday. Yeah, I wouldn't have to, it was not necessary. And I say this region here, the complete side menu, I want to select that one. And that's not all of it, by the way. I can select this one, but this is not enough. I want to verify that the accessibility tree view here is always the same. And the code generator has buttons for that. So if you didn't know, the code generator contains button for generic assertions. I can assert a certain visibility, a certain text, a certain value, but now in the latest versions, I can also assert against accessibility tree view. So I click here on this assert snapshot. Then I'll go to my tree, to my sidebar. I click on it, and then I'm done so far with the recording part. So I'm closing the browser. I can also remove the local host and this one. And you see, first of all, we are using here a locator to navigate to our DOM element containing the side menu. Could also talk about a little bit of using a better one, not about the tag name, but that's not the topic here. The topic is here the matcher, the to match area snapshot. And you see that this is kind of looks very familiar to us. It looks exactly as this tree view that we have seen before in the browser extension. And what Playwright here is doing is that it says it creates a serialization of what it is seeing in the browser, and then it matches the serialization with the string which we have here. But it's not an exact match, it is a partial match, which allows me to remove here certain attributes. So I'm defining only those things where I say they are important to me, they have to be there. And as I said before, I don't care about the bookings, that one can go away. For me it's important that holidays there, customers there, a newsletter is also there. And if I now run the test, although bookings is also part of the game, we see that the test is still successful. And now we can test the fading scenario, where I'm going to use a German term. I would say it's not customers, but it's Kunden. I rerun the test, and then hopefully this one is going to fail, because obviously the specification doesn't match what's currently in the browser, which is also what we see here. Yeah, and if you remember, in the tree view, there were also some other attributes selected. You can also add them here as well. That's not an option, but remember, it's not an exact match. This one here is a subset of what's shown in the browser. That's it for this video. As you have seen, incorporating accessibility into Playwright is quite easy and it really pays off. And if you have any feedback, comments, questions, then please let me know. Also, don't forget that we are providing a testing workshop, so accessibility will also there be covered. And I would be happy if you give this video a like, subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video. Goodbye.